Hopefully you enjoyed that. If you know us well, you know us that we are very biased to Hawaii, and I see some of our dear friends who lived in Hawaii at the same time we did on call tonight. So I'm glad you've joined us, and I hope it took you back to the islands. That was actually our home little video from Jim's phone on the island of Molokai. We had some hula dancers come to our little house for a celebration. So welcome, everybody. Happy to say the calendar has turned. It is now January of 2021, and I once again welcome you to our virtual travel night for Peak Travel. I'm really excited tonight because it's a very fun evening of sharing lots of bucket list things. And all right, now we are here to talk about our inspiration, and again, very excited to share with you some of our top bucket list inspirational ideas. And of course, because I have the mic, I get to go first. Sorry, I'm only going to do one because I'm going to save the floor for the rest of my team. But I'm going to focus on one of the places on my bucket list, and that is Portugal. I am very lucky to do a lot of itineraries to Spain and Portugal, and I have been to Spain and surrounding countries of Portugal, but have not gotten the opportunity to go there. It is super high on my list. We have an amazing partner there that I work with all the time. So I would like to share with you why Portugal is on my list. If you know your geography, you know that it is part of the Iberian Peninsula in Europe. It is just west of Spain, out on the peninsula, part of the EU. So in these protocol and COVID times, they are following the protocols of the EU and the standards. But just know that they have actually done a great job of handling the virus. Low cases. They are expecting to open in April. We are hearing from our partners, so we're monitoring that closely because this was a hot destination before the virus, and we fully anticipate it will become a hot destination after as well. On the left, you'll see a more zoomed in version of the map. A couple things I'm going to talk about is this area, of course, that's Lisbon, which is the capital, and it is where most people fly in and out of. The beach area down here in the south, and then up here, Porto, which is the Douro Valley. So I'm going to just talk briefly about this. Lisbon, amazing city that we do a ton of really unique, specialized walking tours and cultural experiences. They have a very rich history, an old town that is beautiful. We do a lot of like half-day walking tours to get a lay of the land and the culture and the history. We have some great tapas and food tastings, walking tours where you can go into local restaurants, meet the locals, cooking classes, of course, always. The food is a very popular one in Lisbon. Down in the lower right, just as in Spain, there are some white villages outside of the city of Lisbon that are beautiful to go out to. So we'll often do a day trip out into the countryside to experience some of these other little villages to get outside of the city of Lisbon. And then of course that top beautiful real picture is down on the coastline. Of course, the beaches of Portugal are also very well known. They actually have several cave systems that you can walk right through the beach or go exploring. And so it just adds a nice little, if you want to end there on kind of a beach experience, that's a great place to do it when you're in Lisbon. Then we often take you up to the city of Porto, seaside city that is up, and of course inspired by port wine. So the hillside and the countryside, which is the Douro Valley, makes up all of their vineyards, and it is home to port wine. So of course tastings are very big there. The local wineries, understanding and getting to know one, some of those farmers and the vineyards and the winemakers, is very amazing. Also, just for those of you who are interested and are familiar with river cruising, AMA, who is one of our AMA Waterways, is one of our favorite partners and does a great job across the globe. They have a great Douro Valley, Douro River cruise that is part of a larger itinerary, but you spend a few days on the river, which is beautiful through the countryside. And then I would be remiss if I mentioned Portugal and I did not talk about the Azores. This is an island chain about, if you flew from Lisbon, about 2 hours and 20 minutes. It's an archipelago of about 9 volcanic islands, very different each and of themselves, but you can ferry between. There's little, it's like Hawaii where you can take little puddle jumper flights between them. So again, some people come to us just to do a week out in the Azores, or we might pair it and end with 3 days out on the islands after a week or 10 days, depending on how much time you have to spend in the mainland, Portugal. So that's one of the areas that is very high on my bucket list. And I get to work on it a lot, but I'm looking forward to going. So now I am going to pass the baton over to Liz Matassa, who many of you have gotten the privilege to work with. She is our cruise specialist, but she also does a lot of our Tahiti and European itineraries. So Liz, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great, thanks. Hi, everyone. The first bucket list destination I'm going to talk about is one I'm seeing on a lot of lists. It's hot right now, and for good reason. Tahiti really is a paradise of 118 islands in 5 archipelagos. So where is Tahiti exactly? It is in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, south of the equator. So you can get there actually fairly easily through flights from LA. They take about 8 hours, or San Francisco. That takes about 8.5. There are daily flights from both cities through Air Tahiti Nui, and you can also take American Airlines and Air France. Probably most people will end up taking Delta, and then that pairs with Air Tahiti. They are not flying out on Saturdays and Sundays right now, but they are going to be upping their schedule as COVID gets more under control. I want to focus a little bit on the Society Islands. These are the most commonly visited, and they're also the easiest to get to. It's this set of islands where the island of Bora Bora is, as well as the island of Tahiti. And the island of Tahiti is also where all the international flights come and go through Papeete. This area has a climate that's tropical and has record-breaking numbers of sunny days. So great place to go, really all year round. Oh, I do want to mention too, the main island where Papeete is too is worth an extra night or two. There's a lot to do right on this little island. So it's definitely worth it. There's some great waterfalls, ATV tours. If you're into surfing, there's some great surf areas. So you can, I mean, if you're not into doing it yourself, but going and watching it, there's some terrific areas there too. So why is it on so many bucket lists? Well, one of the main reasons I would say is the overwater bungalow experience. They're absolutely spectacular. And just imagine waking up every morning, having a real ocean view and being able to snorkel right from your room. Also, a reason I think that it's on a lot of people's lists is just the sheer number of water activities. In it, on it, over it, whatever it is. And for those interested in snorkeling and scuba diving specifically, this really is a dream destination. The islands have some of the best locations in the world where you can swim close to marine life in amazingly clear waters. And you can even swim with whales, sharks, and rays. But other than water, there's also some additional great activities such as zip lining, ATV rides, hiking, seeking out waterfalls, plus wonderful French Polynesian culture, music, dance, just, and the food is amazing. Lots of course, fresh fruits and vegetables, as well as all the fish. But for those wanting to explore more remote islands, I want to mention one more thing. Taking a cruise is the best and most cost-effective way to get around. Both Paul Gauguin and Windstar specialize in Tahitian cruises starting at 7 nights. These are not currently running due to COVID right now, but they are expecting to be sailing later this year and of course into 2022 as well. Here's a short video. So hopefully that's inspired you a little bit. It certainly inspires me. But I'm going to switch to a colder climate that is on my bucket list. So I love the dramatic landscape in Iceland. It's downright magical. You can see why it's been used for filming locations that need to look like a whole nother world. Many of our peak clients like to see it by land, but actually the easiest way to see, particularly the eastern part of the island, and also get the most diverse view of the country is by small cruise ship. Silver Sea has a 10-day itinerary that cruises all the way around the island with an additional stop in the Faroe Islands, if you'd like to include a trip there, but don't have a lot of time. Windstar Cruises also has an option that's 7 days, but it just goes around the island. For a land or a cruise trip, you would fly into the airport in Keflavik and then transfer to Reykjavik. It's about a 45-minute bus or car ride. And it's a great city to explore on foot. It's really condensed area, very pretty, colorful architecture. And then of course you have the bay right there as well. Also from the capital, you can participate in some of the must-do activities that I would say in Iceland, such as taking a glacier hike, visiting a waterfall or two or more, stop in the pretty town of Vik on the south coast that has black sand beaches, or relax at the Blue Lagoon Thermal Spa. They're all quite close. I also want to mention that the Silver Sea Cruise itinerary also stops in the charming town of Husavik on the north coast. It's the setting for the home of Sigrid and Lars and some mischievous elves from the Netflix comedy Eurovision. Check it out if you haven't seen it, it's quite funny. It is also the whale watching capital of Iceland, something that they even do mention in the movie. I mean, you are pretty much guaranteed whale sightings there. On these cruises, you can choose from activities such as flight seeing over a volcano and waterfalls, horseback riding on Icelandic horses, whale and bird watching from a rib boat, touring a lava cave and or an ice cave, fjord kayaking, ATV and Jeep tours, plus food tours, and all this along with a lot of Viking history. And talk about magical. The sod roofs that are traditional to the Faroe Islands give the homes a fairy house look. They happen to also be excellent insulation and are good for the environment as well. The remote and dramatic landscape of the Faroe Islands is a perfect pairing with Iceland. The islands are made of volcanic rock that are millions of years old. The striking views of windswept mountains, jagged coastlines, and crashing waves really do take my breath away. That's why it's on my list. But I would now like to introduce you to Chris, who also has an interest in Iceland, and he's going to tell you a little bit about how he is virtually visiting the island country.
Hi, everybody. Yes, so I was actually in Iceland about 11 years ago. Feels like a long, long time ago. And I was supposed to be there again this last year, but obviously travel plans get canceled. I was going to take my family and do a road trip, but we'll postpone that for another time. So instead, I decided to virtually bike and cycle around Iceland. So I'm doing this fun little virtual challenge where I get kind of pictures and snippets, and it's fun to see some of Liz's pictures here because, again, I've kind of biked through those areas virtually. So it's been fun. So I'm almost 600 miles down. So I got about another 300 to go, but it is a beautiful destination. Again, you can either do it by land, or as Liz mentioned, there's a lot of fun ways to do it via cruise around the country there. So tonight, I wanted to talk a little bit about one of my all-time favorite destinations, and it's popular on a lot of other people's bucket lists as well, and that's New Zealand. And I think one of the reasons why it's so popular for people is that it's very easy to get around. So New Zealand, it's a smaller country, and if we look at the map in the next slide here, you can get around very easily by self-driving. You can get around very easily by train, and there are so many airports to take little hop flights around the country to get around. So the images on the next slide is self-driving from Queenstown to Christchurch, and as you can see, it's very dramatic. There's about 5 different ecosystems that you'll travel through from your drive from Queenstown to Christchurch. Obviously, you've got the dramatic mountains, snow-capped mountains year round. You've got the farming areas, and it's just a beautiful scenery as you go through, and it's beautiful no matter where you are in the country. Unfortunately, on the roads, though, you can come across a lot of traffic, and that's more local traffic than anything else. And if you know much about New Zealand, you know that there's about 6 times as many sheep as there are people. So for myself, being an Australian, it's fun to kind of poke and make fun of New Zealanders because of their sheep populations versus their people. But I think the reason why New Zealand as a destination is popular on so many people's lists is because it caters to so many different travel styles. It is an active and adventure destination, whether you're hiking kind of in the top left picture on the Remarkables mountain range, which it's kind of a very special name, obviously, because it's remarkable. Whether you're taking kind of the top right there, a kayaking tour, and that's a Lord of the Rings kayaking tour. It's an inflatable kayak tour, so it's very easy going. So if you do like kind of The Hobbit and a lot of the Tolkien movies and books, then obviously that's a great one for you to experience there. Bungee jumping, where bungee was first commercially started, or even kind of having a relaxing helicopter picnic by the glaciers there. In terms of adventure, it really is a great place for people to experience. National parks make up about 30% of New Zealand. And like I mentioned before, it is a smaller country. It's about 1.5 times or kind of less than California, 1.5 times smaller than the state of California. And there's only 5 million people that live there. So if you kind of think about California and New Zealand, size comparison wise in population, obviously you can get lost in nature and experience very, very easily. It's also a slow paced destination. So you don't have to be an adventure seeker to go there and to love it. The top left picture is a very, very fun one that I've actually done myself. You go to the beach and you dig a hole, and it's actually a thermal bath at the beach because there's hot springs that run underneath the sand into the ocean. Or you can go hiking in the bottom left, or walking along the coastline. Food is a huge thing in New Zealand. Wine, brewery tours, farm to table foods, everything is locally grown. And obviously with the amount of sheep and lamb that they have there, obviously you know that the food's going to be good too. So it's a very great place to go slowly as well. Natural beauty is all over, no matter if you're in the North Island or the South Island, whether it's the world's largest dark sky reserve, which is the Ariake Mackenzie Dark Sky. They have the clearest skies anywhere in the world in terms of light pollution. So if you're a photographer, or if you don't even like stars, but you like being outside and kind of seeing the world from a different position, obviously this is the southern hemisphere, so there's a lot of differences between kind of what we see and then what they see down there as well. Or driving kind of around Lake Tekapo, which is the next picture here, and seeing in Megalo, and seeing kind of the wildflowers. These are lupins as you're going around Lake Tekapo. They're actually an invasive species, which a lot of people don't know in New Zealand. So, but they look pretty. It's a nice kind of photographic, nice place to stop for a coffee. There's a lot of cafes around there too. Megalo just mentioned to talk about the glaciers. Yes, on the west coast of the South Island, there's some great places, Franz Josef Glacier, Fox Glacier. There's some great experiences that you can have either hiking to the base of them and exploring them if you're not as active, or if you are a little bit more adventurous, you can hop on a 30-minute helicopter ride and fly to the top with a guide, and kind of tramp around, go into some ice caves, see some tunnels, see the beautiful clear blue ice. And that's a really, really fun experience to do on the South Island there. So around every corner in New Zealand, it'll kind of make you say, wow, 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 for so many different reasons. And that's a reason why it's constantly a popular destination for people, as well as the exchange rate. Generally, it's always in the US's favor. So your dollar goes a little bit further. So New Zealand is a great one there. I'm going to talk a little bit about another destination, why I think it should be on your bucket list. And this is Southern Africa. So a lot of you on the call, I'm sure, have been to Africa before, Southern Africa or East Africa. But I'm going to talk a little bit about Southern Africa here tonight, more in particularly Zimbabwe and Mozambique, which is very different. A lot of people would think South Africa if you're thinking to go down there. So where in Africa is Zimbabwe and Mozambique? Well, they're kind of just north of South Africa, right on the Indian Ocean. So Mozambique, a lot of people kind of will overlook it. It has had kind of a darker history over the past kind of 40, 50 years, back with some of the civil wars, but that is all cleaned up now. And a lot of it, it's a very safe place to go. And it's a very popular place to go for its wildlife. So in this region of Southern Africa, elephants and lions are in major abundance. It really is a popular thing. Elephants in this area, so about 100 years, the last 100 years, they did a census. They predicted about 10 million elephants. Now they did another one in 2018, a count, and now they only recognize as about 400,000 elephants left in Africa. But 70% of those elephants are in this region. So there is an abundance of Africa's elephants. So again, this is something that if you're hoping to go on safari and you're wanting to see these animals, unfortunately, they are on a slow decline. So there's a lot of conservation efforts to try and get those numbers back up. And the same goes with lions. About 100 years ago, they predicted there was about 200,000 lions in the world, including mountain lions here in the US. They think there's only about 20,000 lions left in Africa. And again, 55% of those lions are in this region of Southern Africa, including Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and Zambia. So again, if you're looking to have those unique experiences, kind of like what these pictures are showing, again, you do get close to the animals. And the safari is a little bit different to East Africa. But this is a great place to see those animals in bigger densities. Again, you can't talk about Zimbabwe without talking about Victoria Falls. It is the world's largest curtain of water. They think that there's about 130 million gallons of water come over the falls every minute. So it is a lot of water. And there's a lot of different ways you can experience Victoria Falls. You can do guided walks. You can do helicopter flights over the top. You can do microlight flights, which are kind of a little bit of a different version of a helicopter. You can talk to Suzanne or Linda about that one. You can do gorge hikes, you can do dinner cruises like the image here, and see it from a lot of different perspectives. You can whitewater raft, you can bungee jump, you can zip line, you can do a lot of different things around Victoria Falls, but it is a breathtaking experience, and it's something you remember for a long, long time. So why is Southern Africa? Why should it be on your list? And the reason why I think that is because there's so much diversity in the logic. So the 4 pictures here that you're seeing kind of highlight 4 different regions within Zimbabwe in terms of their safari. So the top left, that's a lodge called Pamushana, and it's located in kind of the rugged mountainous regions of Zimbabwe, central Zimbabwe, cliff top lodging. So it's a different feel than the rest of kind of what you're expecting a safari to be. It's great for local tribe interaction. It's great for unique wildlife sightings. Lots of leopard, lots of painted dog, lots of pangolin, which if you've talked to people that have gone on safari, I can almost guarantee they haven't seen a pangolin because they're so rare to see, but this is a hotspot for them. The bottom left, this is a place called Linkwasha, and it's very popular for its dry, expansive plains and its pans. So it's great for panoramic viewing, so you can see in great distances. You can see dense and abundant wildlife all in one shot. You can see a lot of zebra, a lot of elephant, a lot of giraffe, impala, kudu, and then obviously the animals that hunt them. So you got your hyena, your lions, and your leopards as well. So it's a great area for kind of that traditional image of a safari that you're expecting. The top right, a little bit more of a luxury lodge if you're wanting to go on safari but also relax. So it's kind of a safari with the frills, as I say, because why not? You know, have a couple of nights with a spa, with a massage, a couple of drinks, and then get back onto kind of the wildlife viewing. The bottom left, the bottom right, that's Kenga. It's an interesting lodge, and it's found actually kind of in the marsh areas. So all that greenery is not grass, that's water, and it's very popular for your water adapted animals. So you've got obviously your elephants need it, your hippos, and then a lot of the bird life. So if you're looking for a different type of safari, especially in the first quarter of the year, you get a lot of the European birds that are flying down and migrating back down into Africa. So again, this is all within about an hour and a half of each other, and you can see kind of the diversity. And if you've already been on safari, there's a lot of different ways you can do it and experience culture and wildlife and safaris in a different way. But it's not always just about the game drives. So there are other ways to experience safari, whether that's sitting in a pool, going fishing, seeing some local cave art from thousands of years ago, Bushman cave art, or even kind of just relaxing. The top left picture, and if you talk to people or if you've been on safari, this may kind of recall some memories or some feelings for you. But when I see that picture on the top left, I can kind of feel the warm breeze. I can kind of listen and hear the elephants kind of slowly trudging through the grass and kind of kicking the roots and eating them, or kind of the soft guttural rolls of the elephants, or even kind of I can taste the rum and coke sitting next to this lady as well. But so there's a lot of things about safaris, and it's not always just the wildlife that kind of make it that special for you. And again, safari isn't always wildlife. Only an hour from this destination, if we flip 2 slides, Linda, is a place called Mozambique. And no, it's not Greece. It kind of looks a little bit like Greece, but this is actually in Africa. And this is an hour flight from the safari lodges that you were just seeing. But what a better way to decompress after being in a vehicle, in a Jeep, on a water safari, than sitting on a beach like this. Yellow sand, blue water, private plunge pools, kayaking in the clear water, picnics on the beach, catching local seafood, either yourself or one of the local fishermen, Boma outdoor dinners, or even allowing yourself time to kind of relive the moments that you've kind of experienced the wildlife. So this is a great experience to add to a safari kind of within the months of May through September, when it's kind of the warmest here. You can also have experiences similar to this down in Cape Town, which would be kind of the opposite season, which would be kind of October through March. But again, beautiful way to decompress. And I think this is definitely a destination that is up and coming, and it should be on your list if it's not. So with that, I'm going to pass on to Erin, who's going to kind of talk about her destinations.
All right. So now we are going to jump down. As you'll see, this picture is taken in Peru. I'm not going to talk about Peru tonight because we did that recently, but a few other South American destinations. I think a lot of South America is a really great destination for Minnesotans specifically. I think people here have an affinity for the outdoors and adventure and activity and culture, and this really has a lot to offer. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Chile and Argentina, which are two bordering countries that both kind of combine well. Usually what clients will want to do is combine a little bit of time in the city along with their kind of more adventure nature part of the trip. So maybe you start in Buenos Aires, which is pictured here. This is a really vibrant city. It's known for its art. It's known for its incredible tango, incredible art museums. There's a really beautiful cemetery, above ground cemetery that's almost like a little village and is really stunning to walk through. Food as well, known for its meat. They're kind of famous for their version of barbecue. And so, a big evening out with a meal and a salsa performance is kind of a great way to kick off your trip. From Buenos Aires, it's very easy to fly down to Patagonia. There's a few different areas within Patagonia, and Patagonia is mostly located in Argentina, but does go over the border a little bit to Chile. And down here, the options are infinite. Obviously, the views are incredible. The hiking is amazing. There's horseback riding, biking, mountain biking. There's so many different ways to take in these views. And if you aren't active, a slow walk outside your lodge with that sort of view is pretty stellar on its own. And this park also has glaciers, which you can see here. Another great way to explore this area is by ship. You can see a lot of it is accessible by water. So whether it's a day trip or we do have a cruise line we work with as well that it solely does expedition cruising right in this Patagonia area. So that could be a few days to add on to a land trip. The pieces in Chile are mostly known for Torres del Paine National Park. And Linda, if you want to go to the next slide, I just kind of want to give you a picture of what your accommodations may look like within that park. This is Explora Lodge. Explora has a few properties throughout South America. They're very low profile. They're designed to try to fit into the environment. They're very sustainably run. And they're mostly known from, when you lie down in that bed at night and you look out your giant, glass windows, this is what you're looking at. It's really serene. It's the perfect base for these adventures, and just absolutely gorgeous. From Patagonia, after you've had some time to kind of get your outdoor thrills, another city you could hop up to in Chile is Santiago. Another great city known for art, architecture. There's some great street art tours you can do here, along with some outdoor activities. Once again, a city set among mountains, so beautiful scenery. Or what I would personally do after Patagonia is jump up to the Mendoza region of Argentina. They're very famous for their wine. If you've ever had a Malbec Red, it probably came from this area. So a few days relaxing, maybe you visit a ranch and kind of see the traditional horse culture. There's a lot of great ways to relax post-hiking. So that is South America. And now I want to jump over to something that's on my personal bucket list, and that's Indonesia. Now, I have been to Indonesia a few times. My family used to live in Malaysia, so we've traveled quite a bit, but this is a new experience that I'm really excited about. It's called the Aqua Blue ship, and it's run by Aqua Expeditions, who they operate in the Amazon in Peru, as well as in the Mekong Delta in Southeast Asia. Once again, a very sustainably run company. They're very community focused where they operate, which I admire about them. And this is their new offering. So this is an example of one itinerary. This is their 7-night Bali to Komodo National Park. There are also 12-night itineraries if you want to get a little more extensive. And they also visit Raja Ampat, which is kind of a bucket list place for snorkelers and divers. So cool way to see some really, really unique areas that, you know, no one really goes to. You're on a very small ship. And to show you what that looks like, on the next page, this is the Aqua Blue. There are only 15 cabins on board the ship, so very intimate, very small. You'll also see the boat there. That's how you go do your excursions. So you're on the ship as you travel around, and then you'll hop off onto those to do your excursions. To show you a little more of what the ship looks like, just to give you a feel, and I actually had dinner on this ship when I was in Bali a year or two ago. They had just built it and they hosted us for a nice meal to just get a feel for it. That cabin on the right is what most of them look like. It's super comfortable, very light, very spacious. And then on the left is where you would take your meals. So, you know, you're gonna have a maximum of 30 guests on board at a time. So you really can get to know each other. It's all open air. There's great lounge areas. There's a library. Of course, there will be lectures, so you know what you're seeing and hear about, you know, your different options for each day. And just to give you an idea of a few of the excursions. So if you are a snorkeler or diver, like I said, there are certain itineraries that are probably going to especially speak to you. But on any of these trips, diving and snorkeling is an option. They have all the equipment on board, so it's pretty easy to get set up for that. If you're not into that sort of thing, hiking, they do visit the Spice Islands on some of their itineraries, which is a really cool cultural visit. I mean, it really is where a lot of the world's spices are grown, and a very unique visit. The coral is incredible. It's not over visited, so the coral is vibrant and beautiful, a lot of species, and then just kind of taking in some of the unique wildlife. If you go to Komodo, obviously seeing the Komodo dragons is kind of a bucket list thing for people as well. So a variety of activities to kind of meet everyone's different interests. And then after that cruise, something I would like to do is visit the beautiful resort of Nihi Sumba, which you'll see pictured here. Absolutely stunning. And to show you where Sumba is on this map, what you would probably do to get there is you'll see on the left Bali. You probably are flying in and out of Bali. So if you finished your cruise in Bali, you might take this little flight over to Sumba. It's a little less than an hour. They run several times a day, so very easy to get there. And what's cool about Sumba is there's really nothing there. I love Bali. I always will love Bali, but it's pretty developed. I mean, there's a lot of tourism there, a lot of tourism infrastructure, highly visited. And Sumba's a little different. There's maybe 2 or 3 hotels on the entire island. And the hotel itself is really integrated with the local culture, which is great. So here's just another view. I mean, the beach is awesome. If you're surfers or kind of aspiring surfers, they get some really great waves here. So that's a pretty unique experience. There's only 28 villas on the property, and all of them have their own private pools. If we go to the next slide.
I left it out, Erin.
Oh, that's fine. No worries. But the other thing I love about this property is just how ingrained they are with the community. So, I mean, they've got horses here. You can kind of see some of their traditional spear throwing, cultural activities. It's really entwined and kind of a unique experience while also staying in one of the most beautiful resorts I've ever seen. So that is on my list. And now I think I'm going to hand it over to Jim.
Great. Thanks, Erin. So I'm not going to talk to you about Uganda. That's actually where this picture was taken. But what I'm going to talk about is what's on travelers' lists, right now. And as people are thinking about where can they travel, today and in the near future, Hawaii is one that's trending very, very high. We're actually sending lots of clients over there right now for this winter. And so I wanted to talk a little bit more about this destination and maybe, how you could see it in a different way than the average tourist. So if you're looking for a little bit of trivia, most people think of the Hawaiian Islands as 7 main islands. And while you can visit 7 of the islands, there's actually over 130 islands within the chain, 137 actually, to be exact. And so while unfortunately you can't visit, all these islands that are part of, the largest marine preserve in the US, what we can do is we can look at the 7 major islands that tourists visit and actually find ways to give you some of these secluded spots to have a similar feel that we're looking for. So the difference here is if you take a look at the next slide, when you talk about Hawaii, oftentimes what people will answer is Waikiki Beach or Maui. And while we love those as part of an itinerary, they offer great restaurants, great energy, a great vibe. What we're finding today is people want to relax a little bit more. They want to be surrounded by nature. They want to have that seclusion and really be away from the crowds. And so let's talk about our first island that offers that type of seclusion. Now, this is an island called Ni'iau. And I'm guessing many of you probably haven't heard of that island before because it's not talked about a lot unless you are really familiar with the Hawaiian Islands. What makes this island really special is that it's privately owned. It's actually been privately owned since 1864 when Elizabeth Sinclair, believe it or not, bought this island for $10,000. A little bit less than what Henry Ellison just paid $300 million to buy Lanai, but a bargain nonetheless. What's great about this island is the descendants of Elizabeth Sinclair made a pledge to the local Hawaiians that they would never change the island. And they've stayed true to that to this day. There's only 130 people, Native Hawaiians, that live on the island. Their life there is actually very simple and very pure. They have no running water. They still speak Native Hawaiian as their language. They live off the land by hunting and fishing and growing their own crops. Sunday is reserved for church, and there's no smoking or drinking on the island. It all revolves around the family called Ohana, and that is the spirit of the island. And so while it's a pretty special place, it's also known as the Forbidden Island because they do not welcome outsiders in, simply because they want to protect the way of life that's there on Ni'iau until now. So we actually have a way, on the next slide I'll show you, that we can get you over there for a day trip. This island, Ni'iau, is a short flight away from Kauai. So our clients, we have them stay in some nice resorts over on Kauai. And then you take a helicopter over to Ni'iau. You cannot land in the village, but what happens is you're able to circumnavigate the island by helicopter, and then you're able to land on Nanina Beach, which is this stretch of beach that you can see over on the right-hand side. Quite different than the picture I showed you of Waikiki Beach. There's not even a structure on this one. So when you think about that sand, you just have an expanse of sand that literally does not have a footprint in it. It might have some prints from the monk seals, the Hawaiian monk seals, which are very rare and endangered because they love to go on that beach. And you land there, you have a nice picnic lunch, and then you spend the next 3 to 4 hours just relaxing on the beach. A lot of people love to go there because Ni'iau is known for these very special small shells called Ni'iau shells. And some of the jewelry that's made with these can go for thousands of dollars. So it's very precious to the Hawaiian people. There's just great snorkeling in that area, and talk about relaxation. We're basically shipwrecking you on this beach for you to explore. So that's one of the things that we really love that can offer some seclusion in a way that maybe you didn't think was available in the Hawaiian Islands. So while that's kind of a rustic island, let's talk a little bit about adding a touch of luxury. And this next island we're going to talk about is Lanai. Lanai is the second smallest inhabited island in the chain. And as I mentioned, it was bought by Larry Ellingson about 8 years ago for $300 million. Now, he didn't just buy the island, he actually bought the Four Seasons resort that is on the island as well. And a real tribute to Larry is that during this entire COVID situation, he's continued to pay the full wages and benefits for all the people living on the island. So he's really been a great addition to owning the island and fostering the local community that goes with it. So what can you do on Lanai? There's a variety of different activities. Some of the things that you can do is go check out one of the most famous shipwrecks in the Hawaiian Islands. This is a picture of the Liberty ship. It's actually a World War II era ship. It wasn't damaged in the battle. Actually, it was scuttled by the Navy after the war. And then it washed up on the reef. So you can get some great photo opportunities by checking that out. The island also allows you to rent Jeep 4x4s. You won't find a stoplight at all on the island. So it's great for off-roading or taking, you can see this picture here, a trip up to the Highlands. And there you'd be surprised that Hawaii actually has these expansive pine forests that are cooked pine trees. And then of course you have these quiet beaches because there's just not a lot of people that go to Lanai, as a destination. Then maybe if you're looking for a little activity and you're a golf enthusiast, the Four Seasons is home to the Manele golf course. This was designed by Jack Nicklaus. This hole in particular is called the Challenge, and I can tell you from my experience, I think I lost about 10 golf balls trying to hit over that gorge. So even if you're not a golfer, it's kind of fun just to go out, walk the path and see just the stunning scenery and cliffs that are there on Lanai. As far as the Four Seasons go, Four Seasons does such an amazing job just in terms of their service, the accommodations. They have some of the best COVID protocols in place. They're working at a reduced occupancy level, right now. You'll be pampered in luxury. As you can see, the rooms are well appointed. They actually have a Nobu, restaurant on there. So if you're really into, great food and wine, wonderful destination to do that. And right now they're running a great promotion where they're offering round trip luxury air flights between Honolulu and Lanai. That's just part of your stay. That's available for anyone that books by March 31st and travels by September in 2021. One of the things to keep in mind about Hawaii as a destination is they've opened up tourism actually about 3 months ago, and they still continue to have the lowest COVID rate in the country next to Vermont. So they've done a really nice job of ensuring everyone is tested that gets on a plane before flying to Hawaii. And then you have all the COVID protocols at the property. So it's definitely a good destination if you're looking to travel somewhere safe. And we have direct flights from Minneapolis to Honolulu, which makes it even better. And so if you're looking for maybe not just perching in one place, another experience to consider, and I would say this would probably be more for 2022, is we have this great partner called Uncruise. And as the name implies, it's not a cruise, it's actually an expedition. It's an adventure ship. This boat only holds 37 guests. So it's great if you want to do something as a family or with a group of friends. It's also available for charter. So if you have a large multi-gen family or a group of friends that want to go, what a great way, just to have your own experience. And as you can see from the map, you're able to circumnavigate all these different areas going from the Big Island over to Lanai, Maui, and Molokai as well. I had a chance, to visit the ship, take a tour, and actually talk with the guides. And I just asked about what a typical day is like on the ship, and they said, well, we go where nature goes. So when they actually see the humpback whales, they're going to drive the ship over there, and you're going to get out in kayaks, and you're going to get out in Zodiac rafts, and you're going to watch the humpback whales as they're breaching in the water. If you want to go snorkeling, they're going to go find a remote reef that there's no tourists that are there, and you're able to snorkel those spots. And so to give you an idea, I actually was able to get some footage from when they just came in from a snorkeling trip. And I'm going to share it with you because it's not National Geographic footage. This was actually pulled right off of his GoPro the day I showed up. They saw a pod of dolphins, so they all jumped in the water, and that was the experience that they shot that day. So just another way to think about the Hawaiian Islands that's very different than maybe what a lot of tourists are doing. Okay, so what should be on your list? Let's talk about another idea here. Our family really enjoys wildlife and taking in the scenery, and especially when it comes to bears. We've had a chance to see black bears and grizzly bears and polar bears, and it's just something that we get very excited about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share 2 unique bear safaris that can either be combined into one long trip, or you could look at doing these as 2 separate trips. So we're going to go ahead and start with the spirit bears in British Columbia. And you're probably wondering, what is a spirit bear? I'll tell you in a little bit about why they're so special. But just to give you a sense for geography, it's located, the area we're talking about is in British Columbia. So Vancouver would be your gateway. And what you would do is you would take a flight from Vancouver up to Spirit Bear Lodge. And the time of year to do this, if you're looking for kind of a fun fall activity, would definitely be September, October. That's when you're going to see the highest concentration of bears within this region. So what can you expect when you actually land there? These are going to be basic accommodations. So I just got done showing you the Four Seasons. It's not the Four Seasons, but when you look at the scenery at where this is located, it's just absolutely stunning. And it's really all about the stunning location, the bears, and the guides. Now, the way that Linda and I found out about the spirit bears is you can see in the lower right-hand corner, this is Yuki. Yuki was our polar bear guide when we were up in the Arctic, and she shared this little gem of a secret with us about the spirit bears, which has always intrigued us ever since. And now you're wondering, what the heck is a spirit bear? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the rarest bears in the world. A spirit bear is actually a subspecies of the North American black bear. What makes them different is that they have a recessive gene. So about 1 out of every 10 bears has this white color, much like a polar bear would. There are only 400 of these spirit bears in existence, and they're all found in this British Columbia coast. So a very, very special area. So if you were to go in September or October, you have about a 90% chance of seeing these bears in the wild and just getting some stunning photography that goes with it. Of course, there's other activities that you can do there, kayaking, hiking, looking for other wildlife in the area. But this is really a highlight of looking, for the spirit bears. Now, if you're interested in spending a little bit more time just in this region of British Columbia, another option to consider is Clayoquot is a luxury lodge that is nearby. And so this also would be accessed by seaplane. So it's not a destination that you can drive through. But if you want to have a little bit more of that tented luxury safari feel, Clayoquot Lodge is perfect for that. There's only 25 of these canvas tents that are all kind of styled around, a turn of the century vibe. And this is great for fishing, hiking, kayaking, whale watching, and I just look at that plunge pool down there. I just think about having a cocktail and looking off in the distance and really relaxing. So that can be a really great combination if you just wanted to stay in the British Columbia region and split your stay between those two places. However, if you're interested in actually extending a bit further, what we can do is we can talk about how we would add the spirit bear and actually going up to Alaska to see the grizzly bears. Now, Alaska is a destination in its own. You could easily spend 2 weeks there. I'm just going to talk about one can't miss place within Alaska, which is called Brooks Falls. In my opinion, it's one of the best places literally in the world to go have some amazing bear interactions. This can be done as a day trip where you could fly out early morning, like 6 or 7 in the morning from Anchorage, and then be back about 7 or 8 in the evening. Or what we typically recommend is an overnight stay in Katmai, just to give you more time, to get acclimated and to relax there. As far as the time of year to go, you've got a couple windows here. I wouldn't recommend going outside of these windows because at Brooks Falls, you want to see the high density of bears. September is a great month if you want to combine it with the spirit bears because that's both peak season for them. Or July is also another window that you can
They did mention.
So what makes Brooks Falls so amazing? Literally, it is all the bears that go there. I mean, you can't imagine literally how many bears there are. They're constantly coming in and out of the woods, fishing for salmon, and you're just sitting there mesmerized by the concentration of the bears that are here. Now, you might be wondering, is this safe? Well, you do go through a bear training class that lasts about, I think, 30 minutes, and you get a little pin or a sticker that says you're now a bear expert. But honestly, you're guided by DNR, guides the entire way. And then you go out on this viewing platform. So you're raised up and you're able to, just take in all the bears, in their activities. This lodge has been open since the 40s and 50s. There's never been an attack on a person. So it's a very, safe experience with it. And quite honestly, there's so much salmon in that water that all they want to do is eat and get ready for the winter. And so while you're on that platform, what you're doing is you're just mesmerized by the bear activity. And you can see these bears are all huddled up. They're looking at the water, and there's just this quiet anticipation that's going on. And hopefully you have your cameras ready because the real magic, of Brooks Falls is capturing that moment when this bear literally catches a fish, trying to jump over the falls. And this isn't a 1 in a million chance. This happens literally like every 15 minutes. You see these bears catching the salmon, like that. And so if you're looking for an incredible experience with amazing photos, you really can't go wrong with a trip to Brooks Falls. We've been fortunate to have done safaris and trips to the Arctic and the Galapagos and Antarctica, and all those have very, very special, wildlife memories. But here in the US, in Alaska, you can have an amazing wildlife activity, which still rates, within the top of the memories that I have. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Linda, I'm going to turn it back to you.
All right, thanks. I laugh because my pictures have one of the, in my frames in my office has a bear catching the salmon like this. And I joke because I was pregnant when Jim and I were at Brooks Falls, and I still laugh because he knew that as long as he could outrun the pregnant woman, that he knew he was safe and that he didn't have to worry about the grizzly. So I very much appreciate that. But phenomenal. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. If you can imagine that we had more content, now you believe me that we had to cut it and do it into 2 parts, because we get very excited about where we want to go, where we want to send you, where we know you're telling us you're dreaming of going. And so to end this, before we get to questions, I'm hoping you would take a moment just to type in that chat box. It's down, for most of you, it will be down at the lower end of your bottom of your screen in the bar where you see the chat. And if you can type it up there, keep it on everyone so everybody can see you, and type what you agree with us from tonight on where you want to go and where we didn't talk about tonight. Because you may have seen in the email invitation, like we had Japan, which I'm sorry, because I know a couple of you on here, I know for a fact I'm already talking to you about Japan. So my apologies, it had to get bumped. And other places, where do you want to go? Because if it's not on our list for next month, we will try to add it for sure. Good to see Machu Picchu is on there. Hawaii, clearly. Galapagos Islands is a very big bucket list place. Good to see that. Morocco, excellent. So these are some, please keep it going. Gorilla trekking to Uganda, Rwanda or Uganda. Gorilla trekking is excellent. So maybe this will help, because we are going to be talking about Italy, Japan. I'm going to also talk about the polar regions next month. So Arctic and Antarctica, that I believe it's one of the places that I think should be on your list. And I'll give you a few reasons why. Ooh, Cuba, that's a good one. Jim, maybe we'll talk about that. Jim took Abby a couple years ago to Cuba. Okay, this is excellent. Thank you. And others, keep it coming. This is really good for us to see a couple Moroccos, a couple Cubas. Very good to know. Southeast Asia will come back soon. Vietnam and Thailand, one of our clients wrote a lot of Southeast Asia, whether it's Cambodia and Vietnam or into Thailand and some of the things there. Aaron is our designer that focuses on that region. This was great. So if you have questions, whether it's about something that you want to add to our stories, or a question that you have about any of these destinations, or you want to have us put it on our list for next month, please type it and we'll take a moment to answer anything that's come up. Aaron, I don't know if you were monitoring it at all, and if any questions were coming through, jump in if you're seeing something. Otherwise, we'll wrap up here shortly.
Don't
Egypt
think I've
is
seen any.
okay. Egypt is another one that's big on people's list, as is the Holy Land. I don't know if that's on anybody's list on the call tonight, but Jordan and Israel, whether you're going for religious reasons or not, the Holy Land and Egypt are both. We hear a lot about that. All right, if we don't have questions, I bid you adieu. I thank you guys for joining us again, and watch for your emails, because now you know February is going to be part 2 of this, with just different ideas, maybe some different experiences, definitely different destinations. So please join us and watch for that, and reach out to us individually if you have more questions or any comments. Thanks, everybody.